Imagine an ancient kingdom operating at the peak of prosperity. This was Ayodhya under King Dasharatha, a state defined by deep stability and immense wealth. The kingdom's greatest asset was the crown prince, Ram. As the eldest of 4 sons, he was highly educated, universally respected, and the undeniable choice to inherit the throne. But the succession plan shattered overnight. Queen Kaikeyi, invoking 2 old promises owed to her by the king, demanded that her own son Bharat be crowned instead, and that Ram be banished to the forest for 14 years. Empires often fall to outside invaders, but Ayodhya's crisis came entirely from within. A single clash between personal ambition and royal duty threw the entire state into turmoil. Ram had the military backing and the popular support to seize the throne by force. Instead, he made an active, deliberate choice to honor his father's word without a single objection. This scale weighs absolute power against the concept of dharma. For Ram, the heavy burden of moral obligation outweighs the immediate allure of the throne. Stripping off their royal silk and jewelry, Ram, his wife Sita, and his brother Lakshmana walked out of the palace gates to live as ascetics in the harsh wilderness. His actions proved that true strength rarely looks like aggressively taking control. Sometimes, real authority is demonstrated by the grace required to walk away from power to uphold a higher principle. The transition from the grand halls of Ayodhya to the dense Indian forests was severe. For years, they survived by foraging, exposed to the elements and constant physical danger. Across the sea in Lanka ruled King Ravana. He was an immensely powerful scholar and a brilliant tactician, but his intellect was entirely consumed by an unchecked, massive ego. Ravana used deception to lure Ram and Lakshmana away, sweeping into the forest encampment to violently abduct Sita and drag her back to his fortress. For Ram, Ravana's crime was a direct assault on the concept of maryada, the strict moral limits and boundaries that dictate civilized human behavior. Through a single act of pure arrogance, a man of peace was forced into a conflict where his patience finally reached its limit. Rather than sinking into despair, Ram began organizing a response. He formed an alliance with the displaced monkey king Sugriva and his most fiercely loyal general, Hanuman. Their primary obstacle was geographical. To rescue Sita, they had to move an entire Vanara army, consisting of monkeys and bears, across the ocean to the heavily fortified island of Lanka. Look at this sweeping sandbar cutting through the turquoise waters between India and Sri Lanka. This marks the location of the Ram Setu. Bridging that immense distance required floating millions of heavy stones across the sea, achieved through collective willpower. They faced a historically insurmountable barrier. The water couldn't be crossed by a single hero's might, but it yielded to a united, purpose-driven coalition. In Lanka, the physical violence of war mirrored the underlying philosophical clash, Ram's adherence to dharma versus Ravana's unchecked ego. Ravana had overwhelming military superiority and immense physical strength. However, his arrogance convinced him he was invincible, completely blinding him to his own fatal vulnerabilities. Exploiting those weaknesses, Ram finally pierced Ravana's defenses, slaying the king and securing Sita's rescue. A kingdom backed by immense power and intellect still collapsed because it lacked moral boundaries. Ultimate destruction, in Ravana's case, came entirely from within his own flawed character. With the 14-year exile complete, Ram, Sita, and Lakshmana made their peaceful, triumphant return to the streets of Ayodhya. As you can see in this photograph of lit diyas, the citizens welcomed them home by lighting thousands of small oil lamps. This celebration of light defeating darkness is the origin of the modern festival of Diwali. For his unwavering commitment to duty throughout these trials, Ram earned the title Maryadata Purushottam, the supreme man of limits and righteousness. The Ramayana survives today because it offers a practical, living blueprint for navigating the moral complexities, harsh duties, and inevitable hardships we face in